Hey everybody, Happy New Year, or one day before New Year's Eve. This is Brady, also known in some bizarre corners of the internet as the War Hamster, with another episode of our Grassroots Spotlight series where we talk to people who are getting involved locally and making a difference. Joining me today for the third or fourth time is Sheriff Richard Mack from the Constitutional Sheriff's, God, I always mess CSPOA, Constitutional, what is the darn acronym? I haven't memorized.
Constitutional Sheriffs and Peace Officers Association, CSPOA. You were correct.
Thank you very much. Thanks for coming on. We've got a lot to talk about today, and I'm glad we're able to fit it in this year.
Yeah,
so how you doing?
I wish we didn't always have so much to talk about, because that usually means things aren't going too well in some areas, but we do have good news today. So yeah, I mean, to start out the new year or the end of this year with some good news, that's always fun. And the other good news is 2025 will be my 50th year being married to my little girlfriend that I met where I grew up, and she and I are from the same area in Southeast Arizona, where I served as sheriff for 8 years, and she's been my champion, and I've been hers, and we've made it through suing the Clintons and through everything else that we've had to go through to try to save our country. And she's been behind me all the way. And this is a 2025 is going to be a real big celebration for us. It starts first on January 1st because that's her birthday.
Well, congratulations and happy birthday to Mrs. Mack. It's funny, is I'm going to celebrate my 0th anniversary in about 3 or 4 weeks. My soon-to-be father-in-law just got his Justice of the Peace credentials in the mail, and we're going to do a small ceremony and finally tie the knot. So I will. What's your anniversary date?
May 20th.
Okay. Well, we're going to be in the same range, but 50 years is outstanding. So congratulations to both of you. So
quite the miracle.
Yeah. Well, this day and age.
Yeah.
So before we jump into some of the stories, what's going on with the CSPOA and what's going on with you, and what are your hot topics besides the ones we have queued up?
Well, the good news I had yesterday was one of our good constitutional sheriffs in Texas, Wise County. He takes office on January 1st. That's other good news. He is the sheriff-elect of Wise County, Texas. He attended our Florida CSPOA convention on September 7th of this year, just 3 months ago, and he's raring to go. And he asked me to let Tom Homan know, which I've done, that he's ready to support him on deportation on day one, and he's ready to help make America safe again. And he's a good man. We're thrilled that he got elected, and we're thrilled that he has such a great attitude and trying to become one of our top constitutional sheriffs in this country. The bad news on that constitutional sheriff front is one of our best sheriffs in Virginia, Sheriff Scott Jenkins, was recently, I don't know if framed is the right word, but it's pretty close. He was actually charged with public corruption by the public enemy number one, the most corrupt agency in Washington, D.C., except for the IRS. The FBI went after this good man. And first of all, you have to question the authority of the FBI going after any sheriff. Who appointed the FBI the overseer of corruption in local communities? They have no authority whatsoever. They are a federal agency, and to say that they can come across the country and start arresting sheriffs and other local officials for public corruption, if they want to go after public corruption, tell them to please do so. They can start with the Biden administration. The people who have actually aided and abetted terrorists and gangs coming into America. And sometimes they didn't just aid and abet. They physically participated in this crime. They actually brought these people in here. If anybody thinks that the Tren de Agua gangs of Venezuela walked here, you're crazy. They were flown here. They were bussed here. This was done intentionally. And this is by the supposed president of the United States and vice president of the United States that have wittingly participated in bringing gangs and terrorists into America. Yes, you do have to ask yourself why. But regardless of why, this is what they've done. And so the murders and the rapes and the attacks on our police, physical attacks on police, because of these gangs and these criminals that we've allowed here and brought here intentionally, that they want this to continue. And my warning right now to every mayor and governor who's already come out publicly saying that they will stand against the deportation efforts, Tom Homan is correct. If they interfere, they can be charged with obstruction of justice, and very well should be. And our sheriffs in this country should be investigating these crimes of the Biden administration. And we should not be holding back on this, because if and when the Democrats get in power again, they're going to believe that they can do any type of criminal activity that they want unless somebody does something about it. And I hope and pray that Kash Patel does, and he starts in criminal investigations against these people. And just because they leave office doesn't mean that they shouldn't be prosecuted, because Kamala Harris has already said she's going to come back and run for president again. Folks, we have got to clean up Washington, D.C. We've got to clean up our states and communities, and we've got to stop and do something about public corruption. It is the number one crime in America.
Well, that's an outstanding opening monologue. That's outstanding. There's a bunch of things to touch on there. First of all, I'm holding up here a pocket constitution, and nowhere in here does it authorize the FBI to have any jurisdiction whatsoever over the FBI. I'm sorry, over a county sheriff.
Over sheriffs or anyone else in the states.
Well, it doesn't have any constitutional right to exist, for that matter. But
yes, that's true too.
You know, the way the Constitution was written, law enforcement was left to the states to handle their own affairs.
Well, I will make a little exception there. At the end of Article 1, Section 8, it says necessary and proper clause. Anyway, that Congress has the authority in order to carry out the 20 assignments mentioned in Article 1, Section 8 for Congress. And they were given 5 law enforcement powers. Okay, let's go over them real quickly. Treason. So they have the authority to establish a bureaucracy to investigate treason. If they would just do that in Washington, D.C., where they're supposed to, then we would all be a lot better off. But they don't. They're a political attack team now. And yes, I will agree with you on one thing. The FBI should be abolished because it's gotten too corrupt, and they've got to start over.
Yeah, at this point, it's a standing army, and we're not supposed to have a standing army. That's
correct. Yeah, and that's another one. But counterfeiting is a federal offense. That's another one that we allowed them to have. 3, felonies committed on the high seas. So that's not a state issue. It's out on the seas, and the Coast Guard is supposed to be handling that.
Piracy.
4, they're supposed to protect our borders from invasion. Article 4, Section 4. They're supposed to protect our borders from invasion. If they have failed to do that, then yes, the states can take that over too, because we're the ones that delegated this to them in the first place. Folks, you need to remember this. The states, the founding fathers, we the people, we formed the federal government, not the other way around. They were established to be our servant, not the other way around. And 5 is violations of treaties, which doesn't happen very often. It's rather innocuous. But yes, if they would just stick to those powers there, but public corruption in the states is absolutely not theirs. And the 10th Amendment is what I beat the federal government on when I sued the Clinton administration back in 1997. I actually filed the lawsuit in 94. We won in 1997. Folks, this is the only time in history where sheriffs sued the federal government and beat them at the United States Supreme Court. Every one of you should have a copy of this decision. And I put all the highlights in this little booklet here. Fits in your shirt pocket. It's very small. Go to our website where it says shop, CSPOA.org, CSPOA.org. These only cost like $3 for $5. Spend the $1.60, 65 cents, and get a bunch of these and hand them out to people and show them that there's proof positive from the United States Supreme Court decision when sheriffs sued the federal government and won. This is the most powerful 10th Amendment decision in the history of America. Every American should have this in their pocket, in their car, or in their home. Get these and get the education that every one of us should have. Look at the name on it there, Supreme Court case for state sovereignty, and get a bunch of those. But folks, listen. It is between you and your sheriff to erect the barriers against the encroachments of the national authority. Are we thrilled that Trump got in? Absolutely. This gives us a reprieve for 4 years, maybe just 2 years, depending on how the elections go in 26. But folks, we've got a lot of work to do, and you need to be working with your sheriff, and he or she needs to hear from you as to what you want them to do to help with deportation.
Excellent. Well, I think that segues into the we started talking about the border. Well, let me go back to your point number 4 back there. The fact that the states created a federal government, and this has been a heated debate and on my timeline on Twitter the last few days. And I make it's very clear in the Constitution because of Article 5 and Article 7, they make it very clear that the states have the power, not the federal government. Article 5 convention, these states can agree, 2/3 of states can agree to meet in a convention, and they could actually repeal the entire federal government if they so choose, and there's nothing the federal government can do about it. Yes. That's the parent, not the child. Article 7 makes it crystal clear that these states ratified this contract. It is a contract between the states. The federal government was created by that contract. It is not a party to the contract. And that's a very important issue. The states have an awful lot of power if we decide to act locally and start to stand up for our rights.
I totally agree with that. That's right out of the Constitution, and I totally support the Constitution. I'm a little bit leery of an Article 5 convention that I think would be manipulated by the powers that be, because I don't trust who would be assigned to be a delegate to that to the state constitutional convention. I believe that the people that would end up being appointed would be the same problematic Republicans and Democrats we have right now who have caused the problem in the first place. So that's where I don't trust it. Do I trust the Constitution? Yes. Do I trust the people in charge? No.
Yeah, in fact, Doug Gibbs and I did a quick guest appearance on a show last night with our good friend, Mr. Constitution, Douglas V. Gibbs, mutual friend of ours. I just jumped into his show for about 15 minutes last night. We talked about that. And, the Article 5 convention, no elected officials can be a part of it, but that doesn't mean their cronies can't be.
Correct.
Each state.
I mean, how do they get picked? And I believe it's through the governor's office or through the state legislature.
Each state decides how they're going to send their delegates. And it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if they send one delegate or 50. Each state gets one vote. I think the big protection against what they call a runaway convention is the fact that it takes 3/4 of the states to actually make a change. And everyone's worried about they'd repeal the Second Amendment. Well, you're not going to get 3/4 of the states to touch gun rights at all. It's just not going to happen. That's not. If someone brings that up, they'll be laughed out of the room.
Yeah, we hope, and I hope that's the case. But I still don't trust who they're going to put there. I believe that they're going to put mainstream Republicans and mainstream Democrats in there. And so, some of the states, I trust them, but there's too many that I just don't. And I worry about that, but it is a constitutional provision. But the thing of it is, what I really worry about, I'm not going to get selected and neither are you.
Well, so that's
and I don't believe that any people like us that really believe in our foundation as much as you and I do. I don't believe too many of us will be there.
Yeah, I think one of the things we could do locally is maybe get your state in advance, create a proper system of selecting the delegates. where it's actually the people that vote for it. People like us should be at the convention, and
Yeah.
it would be, my life would be fulfilled if I could be there that day.
Yeah, no kidding. Yeah, mine too. But even like this conservative states, like Utah is supposed to be really conservative, but it is so corrupt. I mean, Utah's a corrupt state, and Florida. Who would their legislature pick? I just I don't know.
Well, the hope is that it'd be 100% transparent, streamed 24/7, everything done out in the open, and that should curtail some of the shenanigans. But we know what happens in this, back room, smoke-filled rooms. So let's talk.
But I still believe that there's a great solution in taking back America and erecting the barriers, as Madison said, that the states are supposed to do that, and that's supposed to be county by county. And I do trust most of the counties. 85% of the counties voted for Donald Trump. That's absolutely huge. And the sheriffs and we the people should be working with our sheriffs in those 85% counties and helping Trump and having his back on the things he's trying to do. And let's be very clear here, folks. And I'm glad I'm on to say this to you today. The first two things that should happen on January 21st is this. Vivek and Elon Musk should say the first two things that are going to be cut from the budget. One is any funding of NGOs, non-government or organizations that have nothing to do with providing a service to our government or to the American people. So the first one to go would be Planned Parenthood. We pay $500 million a year, $500 million every year to this organization that all they do is sell body parts of aborted babies, kill babies, and actually get commissions by the more babies they kill. And then they turn around and use taxpayer dollars to do this and to give donations to other politicians across the country who believe in what they're doing.
Yeah,
and they literally are taking tax dollars and donating it back to pro-abortion people. I'm not even talking about pro-life or pro-death or pro-choice, whatever they want to call the killing of babies. They provide no government service whatsoever. And they should be defunded. And the Republicans had a chance to do this before, and they failed. This time, this should not fail because it's an unconstitutional, evil expenditure, and no money should be forced to be taken from taxpayers to be filtered into this organization. It is a private club. It is a private group. It has nothing to do with our government. Next one, the IRS. The IRS has committed so many different crimes throughout the years since they were formed. The income tax was not necessary. Our country survived great for 130 years before we got this evil organization as a tax collector, as a collection agency for the Federal Reserve. And this Federal Reserve should be third. It should be abolished. It is not a government agency. It is run by international bankers, and this should stop. Those are the first three things that should absolutely be cut. And we would save immediately $20 billion a year just by funding the IRS, who continues to harass, annoy, and victimize and terrorize the people of this country.
That's a pretty good start. And I'm glad you hit on the fact that the circular nature of the Planned Parenthood donations. Think about this. I go to work, I pay my taxes. The government's supposed to spend it on my behalf. I don't believe that we should be pushing abortion, so it's not being done on my behalf. But then that money goes through there, turns a profit in some way, shape, or form, which we don't really necessarily need to get into, and then comes back and funds the campaigns of people who I disagree with. So I'm paying for my own opposition, and that does not sit well with me at all.
No, and it shouldn't. And it shouldn't sit well with anybody, even if you agree with what Planned Parenthood does. If you want to donate to them, you can do it on your own. But forcing us with the point of a gun to pay to an organization like that, no way. And I'm telling you right now, I will not continue to pay my taxes to this evil organization if Congress doesn't do their job this year.
So
I will stop.
well, I've done my own tax protest in the past, and I've had my own run-ins with the IRS, and it's got to be honest with you, but they're actually very polite compared to things like the California Tax Board, California Franchise Tax Board are much harder because they just take your money first and ask questions later. But that's a totally different story. The circular nature of our tax dollars that go into nonprofits, quote unquote nonprofits, NGOs, also applies to the border. We are currently funding our own open border. This is U.S. tax dollars, whether it be through the United Nations or NGOs, that is being funded to bring these people to America. So it's the same situation, and that absolutely has to be addressed.
Yeah, it does, and it should, and it's part of the problem with this open border situation. But the spending that the unconstitutional, unlawful, corrupt spending of Washington, D.C. was just exposed again in his annual report from Senator Rand Paul.
Yep.
And it's $1 trillion. This is $1 trillion every year, folks, that goes to these nonsense, stupid things that have absolutely nothing to do with government, the proper role of government. And folks, there is such a thing. Read the Constitution, and you'll find out where they have the authority to spend our tax dollars. And if they stayed within that, we would be in the black economically in this country. We would have lots of money to do everything. And first thing is to take care of veterans, and they don't even do that. And just recently, they sent billions to Lebanon, and they keep sending money that really doesn't seem to get any congressional approval to the Ukraine. And it just, folks, look, you want to see an example of the corrupt spending of Republicans and Democrats in Washington, D.C.? How about this? We spend about 1.3, we pay to the federal government about 1.3, 1.4, maybe 1.5 trillion every year in income tax. Do you know where that money goes? Does it go to infrastructure? Does it go to the military? Does it go to help veterans? Does it go for anything that is beneficial to America? No. It pays for the corrupt politicians' debt, and it pays the interest only. It pays the interest on their corrupt spending debt. And this whole attitude that we're $36 trillion in debt, and that's no problem, because this is what we've always done. We always spend money we do not have. Folks, we have got to stop that. There's going to be a day of reckoning for that. And when it comes, it's going to be the worst thing to happen to us since the Civil War. It's going to make the Great Depression look like kindergarten stuff. And this is going to happen. And you have the national clock on keeping track of the national debt. This is the kind of spending. It's about $1 million a minute. If I've looked at that thing correct, maybe it's $1 million a second now. Who can keep track of all of it? But folks, and we're a lot more in debt than the 36 trillion, but the 36 trillion is just actual debt. And our interest is about 1.5 trillion a year. So our income tax goes to nothing except their corrupt debt.
100% agreed. That's it's probably the thing that inspired me to get involved in politics in the first place 20 years ago. Is this is a unsustainable path we're on, and it needs to be fixed, and it can be fixed. Yeah. It is fixable. That's the big takeaway. Let's jump into the border, since it's something that's very high on your list of priorities.
Yes.
As my audience knows, I spend an awful lot of my adult life in Southern California, San Diego area, and we just got it's been in the news. This is a Zero Hedge article from December 27th, so just 2 days ago. It says sheriffs say they can help ICE in Trump's mass deportation plan. And I'll just bring a couple quotes out of there and get your comments. Tom Homan says the nation wants a safe country. We've had enough crime in this country. Who in this country knows their counties better than the sheriff? Great point. Our mutual friend, Sam Bushman, who is the CEO of the CSPOA, is quoted here. And see if I can find his quote. Well, it's around here someplace. Sam has mentioned. How does that? What does that look like? Well, let me bring up the other article too. So, and I'll get your comment on that.
I think was that in Epoch Times? Epic Times?
The original article was written in Epoch Times. I had the Zero Hedge version up there, right there. And
and that was a quote from me when it said, "No one in this country knows their counties better than sheriffs," and so we should be wanting to help. First of all, we have our own detention centers. They're called the county jail, and so most of them have a rec yard where they could put people there. Even if they didn't have bed space, they have some space where people could be located. For heaven's sakes, take the example of Sheriff Arpaio when he put up tents in some of his places. Put up a fence, put up tents, whatever they have to do, especially when they want to go after the low-lying fruit first, and that's the gangs and the terrorists and people who have committed crimes here. Look, some of these people don't need to be deported. Some of them need to be arrested. And so we need to make that determination before we just start deporting everybody back to Latin America or to the Middle East. Or the CCP has Chinese dissidents here, Chinese warriors here. Russia has the same. And then just about every terrorist group from the Middle East has tens of thousands of their warriors here. And then we have the gangs from Venezuela, gangs from Guatemala. We just arrested a man for burning a lady alive on a subway in New York. And he was from Guatemala, of course. And we have so many things going wrong because of this. Sheriffs want this criminal element out of their counties. And for governors and mayors to say, we want them here. We're going to do everything we can to keep these good people here. What about the bad people that are here because of this? What about the murders and the rapists and those who have attacked, just randomly attack people on the streets, or randomly attack police, or even worse, kill police or beat police, shoot police, and yet these people act like they're heroes and say that caused this problem, put us back in office, elect me. I'm pro illegal immigration. Folks, anybody that tells you that should be recalled and removed from office. And we have a governor here and the Phoenix mayor who are doing the same thing. And then you had the San Diego Board of Supervisors who said, we will not allow any of our resources whatsoever to help with mass deportation. We will not help Trump. We will not help Tom Homan. We will not cooperate. And yet they failed. They failed to do one important thing. Ask the sheriff if she would go along with what they were saying. After the Board of Supervisors voted 3-1, Sheriff Martinez came out and said, you do not control the sheriff's office. I do. I do not report to you. You are not my boss. And Brady, this is what I've been saying for decades. The sheriff reports only to the people in his county. He not to the city, to the county commission, to the city council, to the county attorney, to the attorney general of the state. The sheriff is people. And she came out and said, whatever I want to do to help, I will help. I don't need your permission. Sheriff Martinez, thank you so much. Thank you so much for what you're doing. I left you a message to congratulate you for what you are doing because you're absolutely correct.
Yeah, I campaigned in San Diego pretty hard for her opponent in 2022. My good friend Jonathan Peck was running as a constitutional sheriff. We were worried Kelly Martinez Sheriff Kelly Martinez was going to. San Diego's always had a really tough time with concealed carry permits. We were worried she was going to roll back what we'd accomplished. I haven't heard a whole lot of reports of anything negative so far, but when she stood up and took this position, yeah, we were very pleasantly surprised. San Diego, of course, is a border town, a border county, and you have to have the right sheriff there. And this brings up the question. Tom Homan's been talking about quite a bit. The sanctuary cities, sanctuary counties, sanctuary states are saying exactly what we said, that we're not going to aid. We're not. We're actually going to resist. ICE detainers and everything like that. Tom Homan doesn't think they can do it. What are your thoughts on that? Can we arrest elected officials for interfering with ICE deportation procedures?
I think if they try, they're looking at some criminal charges, no question, and they should, and they're not going to get away with it in Arizona. The new county sheriff we have in Maricopa County, which is the greater Phoenix area, is a very good friend of mine, and I worked on his campaign. I've never worked on that much of a campaign in my life, except for when I ran for office on Wednesday.
Oops, your voice cut out there for a second.
And I went to a swearing-in ceremony last week. My wife and I both. And this guy is going to be working with Tom Homan. He's going to cooperate. And if Mayor Gallego in Phoenix wants to get in the way, or the governor Hobbs wants to get in the way, you're looking at arrest. And you know what? That would be quite historic and quite the message to send to politicians across the country. You're not allowed to commit crimes just because you think you're a big shot politician. You're not allowed to break the law. And sanctuary cities are against the law. You cannot aid and abet criminals in your county. We're doing a humanitarian thing to aid and abet criminals. Well, look how that turned out for the girl that was murdered in San Francisco about 5 or 6 years ago. Let's be real. Laken Riley, another one in Georgia, murdered by illegal aliens. Cops murdered or killed some other ways, like the one in Mesa Police Department, run over by an illegal alien while he's investigating a traffic accident. These types of things, folks, just one after another. Do you ever hear Democrats assailing those who have caused this problem? No. Did you ever hear Biden apologize to Laken Riley or her family about her murder? No, because it doesn't fit their political agenda. Common decency doesn't fit their political heinous agendas.
Yeah, and that's one of the, I'm always a big proponent of states' rights. But when it comes to the border, it is clearly articulated, enumerated that it is a power of the federal government. The states cannot interfere. We saw that test adjudicated to some degree when Texas was going to enforce their own border because the federal government wasn't doing it. Right. So this is something that's going to be, it'll be one of the biggest storylines of 2025.
The states do have the authority to protect themselves.
Sure they do.
The federal government notwithstanding. We delegated that power to them in the first place. So if they don't do it, we can take it back. And the courts were completely wrong. The states are sovereign. They can protect themselves. What are we supposed to do? Just let the federal government destroy our entire state, and then say, wish there was something we could do about it. There is, and we should. And the sheriffs and the governors of each state should be coming together to do this, and working with Tom Homan and President Trump. The Democrats caused this. It was intentionally done. And then to say that they can push back and get in the way now of us enforcing the law that is on the books that they should have been enforcing all along.
Agreed. Again, it is going to be one of the biggest storylines of 2025. It is not going to be pretty. It can't be pretty, but it needs to be done.
It needs to be done.
It needs to be done. Let's shift gears. Trump just won a historical victory in November, and he's been appointing his cabinet members, and not all of them have been entirely popular with the MAGA crowd. One in particular I wanted you to comment on was there's a certain sheriff out of Florida that was going to Trump appointed for what was the post he was getting named for?
He was going to be the director of the DEA, Drug Enforcement Administration.
Yeah. So what happened with that? Because it didn't last long, and I know you had a bit to do with it. So go ahead and tell us.
We were appalled that he would be picked. We know how that happened. He trusted someone else in his transition team, and they didn't properly vet this man. His name is Chad Chronister. He's the sheriff of Hillsborough County, which is Tampa. He is totally woke. He is totally DEI. He is totally liberal. He claims to be a Republican, but he's not. He's not even a bad Republican. He's horrible. And I've always made an example of him in my tale of two sheriffs. We had a sheriff in Tampa who arrested a pastor for having church service during COVID in the United States of America. Sheriff Chronister bragged in a press conference, charging a pastor for having church, and he trumped up a couple of misdemeanors for him. I don't know when sheriffs get together and have press conferences over arresting somebody for two innocuous misdemeanors. The charges were dropped by a judge who knew better. And Chronister actually doubled down and said he was protecting his people from this horrible COVID-19 disease. And then the other hand, Sheriff Glenn Hamilton in New Mexico defended Pastor Caleb Cooper in his county and protected him and deputized everybody in his church so that when the state came to shut him down, he told them, "You're not shutting them down. I've deputized everybody in that church. They're under my authority and they will remain open." Which sheriff do you want? So the worst example was Chad Chronister, and now they wanted to put him in the Trump administration. And we raised a big stink, and we were on the Steve Bannon War Room show. Steve Bannon said, "I will take this to Trump. I will show him this clip of what you said." A couple of days later, he put me back on and he said, "Sheriff, good call. We got rid of Chronister, and President Trump thanks you for your help. He really appreciates what you did, and he really appreciates the CSPOA." And folks, you can join the CSPOA, and we need you to join the CSPOA. And one is you join our posse, which is $11 a month, and then you help keep us funded and you keep us working, and we help train you to become a part of your sheriff's posse. If he has one, great, join it. If he doesn't, we help train you to create one in your county. And every sheriff can do this. It is not, don't listen to the national media on this, because they don't know jack about what your sheriff can and cannot do. And they don't know anything about posses. And so this is lawful, and it can happen however the sheriff wants. He can train you to, just like he does a deputy, or he can train you to do innocuous things. Whatever the sheriff wants to do with his or her posse can be done and should be done.
Yeah, I think that's going to be something I look into when we make our move to the Southeast. Where I'm here in the Northeast, that's probably an exercise in futility to some degree. I live in a pretty woke town, which is interesting. You see the sweatshirt I'm wearing, the 1776. It is so much fun walking down the streets and looking at all, getting all those looks. It's easier when you're 6'3", 200 pounds that people aren't going to mess with you too much. But yeah, it is fun. But I'm definitely going to be looking into that when we make our move next year.
Good job. Everybody join the posse. In the meantime, we do training every Wednesday. We won't have it this Wednesday for the first because that's my wife's birthday. But folks, become a part of this. This is a peaceful and effective solution. It's one of the few that we have left. And we are committing to be behind Trump and Tom Homan as we try to re-secure America and make it a safe place to live. And we've got to bring this back. We owe it to the American people, Democrats and Republicans alike, to make America safe again and secure our borders.
Amen to that. Sheriff, do you have a few more minutes to touch on the last topic we wanted to hit? We can do
yeah, sure.
Okay. Well, as you know, I'm from Southern California, and one of the people who's been touted as one of the better constitutional sheriffs is Riverside County's Sheriff Chad Bianco.
Yeah.
I've met him in a number of events. He spoke at a lot of patriotic events, and he talks a good talk. We saw just a few months ago the alleged second assassination attempt against President Trump with Ven Miller. I know you've been involved with this. I started looking into Chad Bianco, and we found out, well, this is the guy who took a knee with Black Lives Matter, which is not a good look from where I stand. Talk a little bit about that Ven Miller situation, and what did Chad Bianco do wrong, and what should he have been doing?
Well, I think they called it the third assassination attempt, that he prevented it, that the sheriff's office, Riverside, prevented it when Trump was speaking near there. And might have been right in Riverside County just 2 or 3 months ago. And I can understand the police and the sheriff's office being a little bit on edge because of the recent attempts on President Trump's life. But I know Ven Miller, and Sam Bushman wanted to do a story about it because he knows Ven Miller. And we're not really close. I think we've been at a few events, and he came and covered our event in Las Vegas last spring. And if I was to have to vouch for his character, I would say that I've known him to be an honest, good person, but I don't know about his personal life. I don't know where he lives, who he lives with. I've never been to his home. He's never been to mine. But we've had some dealings, and I always thought he was a straight shooter. And so when this happened, I immediately questioned it, and I found out that it was not true, that he was not there to assassinate President Trump. And I actually emailed Sheriff Bianco, and I know Sheriff Bianco pretty well. We've never met in person, I don't believe. Maybe one meeting he may have come to. And he's always claimed to be a constitutional sheriff, but he is he's been a little bit critical of me. And he said something like, "Oh, Mack is just out for money." Well, I've never asked Sheriff Bianco for any money, and I've never asked him to be a member. I don't ask sheriffs to become members of the CSPOA. I don't. There's dozens who have joined, but they've done it on their own. And they saw the necessity. Sheriff Leaf in Michigan, Sheriff Songer in Washington, a couple here in Arizona. I don't care if they become members. I like them to, but that's not our goal. Our goal is to have sheriffs become constitutional and serve their people, keep their oath of office, keep their word to the people that they work for, that when they swore in God's name, that they would uphold and defend, protect, and preserve the U.S. Constitution, that is exactly what they do. And it's the most important thing relative to fulfilling their job as sheriff. And so Bianco put out some recordings that I totally agree with. And he sounded like, wow, this guy's great. But then I emailed him and I said, hey, you've made a mistake about Ven Miller. And I'm willing to sit down with you and him and straighten this whole thing out and get it to where, he doesn't want to sue you or your officers. And that was the intent of it. I just wanted to see it settled. I liked Sheriff Bianco and I like Ven Miller, and I just wanted to help solve a problem. And he basically told me to pound sand, that he had done nothing wrong. His officers had done nothing wrong, and that I should mind my own business. And so I did. And I didn't email him again. And then Sam Bushman and he were emailing back and forth. And Sheriff Bianco said he never said that Ven Miller was trying to assassinate the president.
I can play the tape right now, but he absolutely did. He went out and did a full press conference, was on all the news claiming that we thwarted an assassination attempt. He cannot walk that back.
Right. So he should have tried to walk it back, but he never did, and he still hasn't. And so Sam played him the tape recording that you're talking about.
It's right here.
And yeah, and he definitely said it. Unless somebody was impersonating him and sounding just like him. Other than that, it was Sheriff Bianco. And Sam actually said in an email, you were not forthright in telling me the truth about your statement. Here it is. And he says, we would like to do a story with Ven Miller, and we would like to offer you a chance to come on our show and give your side. And he said, when one of the emails, he said, this is why I don't like the CSPOA, or nobody likes the CSPOA, because you're doing this. This was not anything to do with CSPOA. Sam Bushman is a professional broadcast journalist and has been for about 30 years.
Yeah, he
is nationally syndicated.
He owns
you know that as well as I do.
Yeah, Sam owns a bunch of radio stations. He produces My Good Friends at the Big Mig. He does their show.
Yes.
Sam's quality. He's earned his, kudos. He's a great guy.
And part-time, he works for us, and he's the CEO, and he's great at what he does. And he has his family involved, just as I do. I have my family involved. My wife and I run a lot of the day-to-day things, but she really basically runs my schedule and helps me get on this show and others across the country. I've been doing about 35 shows every month, and we slowed down a little bit around Christmas time. But folks, I've got one on New Year's Day, and we do these because we're trying to get the word out about these important topics. My offer to Sheriff Bianco still stands, but I emailed him again just a couple of days ago, and I asked him, I told him I would stay out of this because you asked me to. Now I'm asking you to leave the CSPOA out of it, because this has nothing to do with CSPOA. Because Sam works for us does not mean his broadcast journalism becomes CSPOA. Okay. And so he did not respond to me. And that's fine. But I just told him, you didn't want any of my help. And now, I didn't say this to him, but now he's kind of between a rock and a hard spot. And he needs to just man up and apologize and say we were wrong, because it's obvious that he was. The FBI is not investigating this. The Secret Service are not investigating this. Chad jumped the gun, and no pun intended, but Ven Miller is being charged with illegal possession of a gun and maybe something to do with a license or something. Both misdemeanors.
Yeah, the point being, you do not let a suspected assassination of a candidate for the president of the United States
bail
out on bail for $500.
Yes, I know. That's the first thing I said. So thank you for bringing that up, because I said if this were true, he would still be in jail and there would be no bail. And he just bailed. You're right. I thought that was that's pretty stupid. To claim that somebody just is trying to kill the president. But where is he? Oh, he bailed out about 10 minutes later.
Yeah, you only let someone out on bail like that if they're an illegal alien. No. It works these days. What I will tell you is Sheriff Bianco is not being invited to an awful lot of patriotic events in Southern California anymore. People are ticked off about it. Yeah. And I need to reach out to Jonathan Peck, because that's pretty near where he lives. Maybe you could be the Riverside County Sheriff. Or we'd like to see him in San Diego next time around, but we'll see how that goes. I know
I would like to see Peck. Is it Peck or Beck?
It's Peck, P-E-C-K.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
And I consider him a personal friend.
He's a good man. I would support him again, I'm sure. But I would still like to have this sit down with Sheriff Bianco. And I still believe that I could help him and Ven Miller both. This is a lawsuit that's probably going to happen. And Ven has not pulled back. And I don't believe he's going to pull back. I am not encouraging him to sue Bianco. In fact, if he asked me, I would probably tell him not to. But he hasn't asked me. And so, Sheriff, I still hold you in high regard. You've made some mistakes here that I totally disagree with. I offered, I made you an offer in friendship, and it still stands. So, end of story. I am staying out of it. But if I am ever asked about this in the media, I will tell the truth. And I did.
Very good. I appreciate it. And thank you for your time, everybody. This is the website, CSPOA.org. Please go check it out. Donate if you can. Do whatever you can to help. It is a great organization run by great people for a great cause. Do you have any closing thoughts?
Well, just one other thing. I would like to, if you can show this right now, our badge and wallet.
Where am I going?
Just go back to me.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, that's our CSPOA badge and wallet. It's a very expensive all leather wallet. It's a very nice badge made by one of the most prominent badge companies. The badge is real, CSPOA Constitutional Posse. It is great to have with you for your personal identification. It's all sorts of places in there for that. We will send anybody that buys this. We're charging, we had it on sale, but we're now upping the price, and our price of these has gone up. So the price is $699, and we will pay the shipping. Okay, $699. We'll pay the shipping. Just put on your donation at CSPOA.org, CSPOA badge and wallet, and we will get those right out to you. I will tell you, we only have about 70 of them. So do what you can. I'm also sending one to Steve Bannon probably today. And we're going to get help for this Sheriff Jenkins in Virginia, who's been unlawfully attacked by the corruption agency that has gone after his corruption. Sheriff Jenkins is a good man. I would stand with him anytime, any place, and I'm doing so now. So we're raising money for him. We hope that we will get him a pardon because he's not being sentenced until March. So we hope to get this in front of President Trump. And this is our goal, to get this good man back to his family where he doesn't have to serve time with some of the very people that he helped put in prison. Not a good situation. This is not good at all. I would trust him to be a sheriff anywhere in this country. I trust him with my wife and my life, and I still do so now. And I'm completely standing with him. This was corrupt FBI at its worst, and we've got to stand with those victims, January 6th, and other sheriffs who've been attacked by the FBI.
Well, that's one heck of an endorsement. I hope my audience finds a way to reach out and see if they can support and help that cause. Sheriff, you are always welcome on my channel. Thank you very much for giving up some of your time to have this conversation. Some really important topics, and Happy New Year, happy anniversary, and happy birthday to your lovely wife.
Thank you so much. Here's to freedom in 2025, and thank you so much for having me on your show, and I look forward to being back with you.
Cheers.